The question is, as the urban core of Grand Rapids and other cities in Western Michigan continue to undergo development, what actions can be taken by historically marginalized populations who live in these neighborhoods to position themselves to prosper, to the fierce urgency of now? So,
Thank you. Thanks, Urban League. Thanks for inviting me. For those who know me, I am not a morning person, and I'm not brief. So I'm going to challenge myself to be both this morning. I want to start off by a quote from MLK. He says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And he also went on to say, there comes a time when silence is betrayal. So when we talk about this urgency of now, I guess I urge all of us to really take that to heart. The conditions that we're living in and what's going on is because, in a lot of ways, we are living this dream, but we've never really woke up and done any action. And Martin Luther King was really about action. So that's kind of the backdrop to what I want to discuss. Really, it's 3 or 4 things that I think we need to do candidly. One is, as a community and as a nation, we need to stop ignoring material fact in history. United States was built on slavery. It was built on free labor. What's going on in our community isn't this anomaly, and we all sit around and talk about, what's going on, how is this wrong? We need to understand that America is working as designed. And collectively, if we want different outcomes, we need to work on that design, and we need to work on that system of design. Secondly, we need to organize. Communities really need to come together. We need to understand that in order to make really systems change, we have to work with residents. We have to really respect the indigenous knowledge of the community. And remember that it's really residents who make the community. So when you have something going on in your city, again, it's because we allow it. So if we want kids to prosper, if we want to live in a community where your zip code is not more indicative of your health than your genetic code, then we need to all get up and act. Again, these things only happen when society allows it to happen. So collectively as a community, what are we willing to organize together for? And a lot of that is unusual suspects. Remember, people don't just sit in one space. You're not just black. You may be black and a female. You're not your sexuality, but you also bring race and so forth. We need to really start looking at this connection and how this stuff is interconnected and build these unusual alliances more now than ever in this current political climate if we really want change, and understand that individualism will never get us there. So collectively, how do we come together for our communities and for change? And how do we work on things that's bigger than us? The second thing is wealth creation. We need to be into business ownership. We need to work together with communities, especially historically marginalized communities that have not had access to opportunity, and really make them part of the wealth creation of the community. And when I'm saying wealth, be clear, I'm not saying riches. So as we look at gentrification, if we look at neighborhoods, when you don't own the property, when you don't own the land, you have systematically removed the wealth of a community indefinitely. So how do we get together around programs such as home ownership, business ownership, and so forth, so that we can actually, as marginalized community and people of color, start participating in the wealth that's being created? Because ultimately, in America, wealth is power. And a lot of times, we can lease the building, but we can't buy it. We're at the table and we talk about job creation, but very rarely entrepreneurial development and business ownership. We have to collectively really, really focus on wealth creation as a community. And the third thing is governance. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, they can't ride your back unless your knees are bent. So we need strong people in governance. We need residents. We need leadership development. Everybody who is civically minded should be engaged in change. Governance ultimately is where the change happens. And a lot of times, again, because when you're historically marginalized, you don't have access to those type of social circles and to get to the table. nowadays, it's not just about getting to the table, it's about really making change at that table. So how do we create this pipeline of equity-minded individuals that actually can participate in the governance of our community? Because that's really how it's gonna change. So once again, if we stop ignoring material fact and history, no matter how uncomfortable that makes you, if we organize around power and build power within our local communities around change that we wanna see, and we intentionally do wealth creation for the most marginalized communities. And remember, prior to Martin Luther King's death, he was working on a poverty initiative. He was actually going to have this big tent city right at the mall in the Capitol to show people how people in poverty and the importance of that. We have to have that same spirit because everybody should participate in wealth and prosperity. And then second, we have to govern for something bigger than ourselves. And it's about us. It's not waiting on other people to come and do it for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Darel.